So again, I welcome everybody to today's webinar. It's great to see everybody. If you don't know who I am Bruce Rosenblatt. I own Senior Housing Solutions, and I am pretty much the foremost authority on senior housing in this area. I have been in the business for over 30 years, and I use my experience in senior housing really to evaluate the different senior communities in this area, and I evaluate them from pretty much the inside out. Because of my experience, I kind of know how communities should be staffed and operated and different services. So I really try to keep up with the different communities and provide my expert advice for people. So if you know of anybody or if you are thinking about senior housing, please reach out to me because this is what I do. And I appreciate all the referrals. And I've been doing this for quite a while, and the referrals are very important to me. So I have a good friend, Marla, who I know everybody's here to hear, and not pretty much hear from me. And so I'm going to let her talk a little bit. But I have a great Marla story. And so I had a storage unit for many years, from previous lives, and we just kept on putting stuff in our storage unit. I kept on paying for the storage unit, and actually I think I had it for about 14 years. And and it sort of became this this huge burden. I almost felt a hostage to the storage unit, because every year they would come back and they would raise the price, and they would say I need additional insurance, and it just became this burden because I just knew I had all this stuff. I didn't know what to do with all this stuff. So Marla said, Bruce, I love going through stuff. I love storage units. And in a way I was a little embarrassed, and I'm sure going through, everybody probably thinks about, I don't want somebody else to see all my stuff. And it's, so I was a little embarrassed to even bring somebody to look at my storage unit. And so, we had a collection of nutcrackers. And, my wife collected nutcrackers, and we had nutcrackers, big ones, small ones, fancy ones. And this storage unit was filled with nutcrackers. And I was pretty much embarrassed to say, here, I got all these nutcrackers, and I'm a Jewish guy. What am I doing with all these nutcrackers? So finally, Marla said, Bruce, come on, let's look at it. I'm going to help you. And so, Marla and I went over there, and we knocked it down. And I got to say, it was actually fun. We had fun doing it. We had a good time doing it. And I actually, I got rid of the storage unit and actually made a little money on the side. So I'm really appreciative of Marla, and I know what she does. It's not easy. And so I just, I recommend Marla to many of my clients, because I know that, downsizing and trying to, what do you do with all your stuff is a very challenging thing for people. And so Marla is a really good friend of mine, and all my clients that use her, are very pleased with her. And so I really appreciate, Marla, you spending your time with us today. And so I'm gonna let you take it from here. And just for you all as an audience, Marla's going to do her presentation, and then there's the little chat button at the bottom of the Zoom. So if you have specific questions, we'll do a Q&A afterwards. I am recording this, that I'll be sending this out to everyone when we're done. So Marla, the show is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody, and thank you for getting up so early. And I think it's cold outside. I haven't been out yet. The dog's at the dog sitter. Otherwise, I would be outside. So for those of you who don't know me, I'll give you a quick bio. I have lived in Naples for 21 years. I moved here, did not know a soul, got in my little Toyota with my dog and stuff on my back, and I came here, and Naples is my home. And I worked for the Ritz-Carlton for 4 years in sales and marketing, and I worked for several builders and designers, and then I had my own marketing firm. And the crash came in 2008, and I had to say, well, time to reinvent myself. What do I love to do? And I had always been thinking about how much I liked organizing all my friends' closets, and never even knew there was a profession. So I just sort of went in, didn't even think about it. And I said, oh, I'll be I'll be organizing closets. How much fun. Well, I laugh because I don't remember the last time I've organized a closet. Because what I do as an organizer is I work with people, a lot of whole house organizing. I work with a lot of widows and widowers who are all of a sudden, faced with paperwork and faced with things that they've never had to do before. I work with children who say, I can't work with my parents. You have to do this for me. I do a lot more moves and downsizing and helping people get their homes ready to sell. So I'm going to tell you a little story. I have lots of little stories, but the first one I'm going to tell you is that my mother is 91 and my father died 20 years ago. And every time I'd go to my mom's apartment over in Delray, all right, this is really cruel, but I used to sit there and go through the closets and go through the drawers. And I was so happy to see that my mother didn't have a lot of stuff in her drawers and her closets. And I used to lie there and go, oh, when it comes time, I'm going to have a breeze. I'll go to the house, I'll empty it, and I'll go out for lunch. It'll be a cinch. I know a lot of you are thinking that's just really cruel, but trust me, your kids are thinking the same thing, but they're not thinking about it in a positive way. They're thinking, oh my God, when it's my mom or dad's time, I'm going to be here for a month. So anyway, about in the middle of COVID, about 6 months ago, we had to take my mom and put her into independent living. And it was a very fast thing. It happened literally in a 5-week period. Had Bruce been on the East Coast and had my brother been, willing to speak to somebody, we would have definitely hired Bruce, but it was a family emergency. It happened fast. And I went over to clear the house out. I hired a mover from here. It was just easier. Went over. Anything that my mom hadn't taken with her, we brought back here and we either took it to the dump, took it to consignment, or I actually put it in my garage and sold it. So much for an easy day and having lunch out. It was 14 hours, and that's not counting the drive back and forth to Delray Beach. I at least was not angry at my mother. A lot of children get very angry, and you need to know this, that you're holding on to things and you think to yourself, well, my kids can deal with it. So repeat after me, although I can't hear you. My kids don't want anything. Okay, we all got that. I called my brothers, I called my sister. Who wants anything? The only person who wanted stuff was my sister-in-law. That's another story. So, Bruce always says, what's your expression? You say 5 minutes too late?
It's better to be 5 years too early rather than 5 minutes too late. Okay,
so I agree with him. It better be 5 years too early than 5 minutes too late. And that comes to downsizing, which I like to call right sizing. So when I say downsizing, your heart's going like this, because you think, oh my gosh, I have so much stuff. What am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with the stuff that my great Aunt Mary left me? What am I going to do with the stuff that my parents saddled me with that I just can't get rid of because I feel guilty? And you're thinking, you're stressed. But when I say right sizing, it's a more positive term, right? So you can nod. Because it means that you're doing the right thing, and you're doing the right thing for you. Most of the time when people think about downsizing, it's a frenetic moment. You are very close to having to move, be it that you're going into assisted living or your children call because the parents are going into memory care, or all of a sudden you just realize, hey, it's a great market. I'm going to sell my condo. Take the money and run. Whatever reason, or you want to get out of New York, you want to have a different and an easier life. What happens is all of a sudden it's a month out and you're frantic. And then you call me or you call another professional organizer, and a lot of us are booked. And then, so these things happen, and then you're rushed and you're making fast decisions. Sometimes the decisions are not decisions that you want to make, but you feel like you have to make them. Now, I am not a person to ask you to buy anything. In fact, I'm the person to ask you to get rid of stuff. But there is one thing I would like you to purchase. Now, Goldie, I have to use your name. I don't see you, but I met with someone and I met with her. I said, look, you're really not ready yet, but when you are, you know how to find me. I said, but in the meantime, I want you to buy a book. Now, I'm going to be sending everybody this information, so you don't have to worry about it, okay? And it's called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. And essentially, it's about a woman who self-proclaimed she is somewhere between 80 and 100, lived all around the world. And what she did is she was going to move in with her daughter and grandchildren, but she had a year to move. And she spent the year going through all of her memories and deciding what she needed to keep, what she wanted to keep. And she came up with some wonderful solutions, okay? She had a lot of photos pre-internet and had lived all around the world. So she made diaries for her 4 children. I like that story. But she did this on her own terms. So I like to think that Swedish death cleaning is right sizing. Goldie, did you feel the same way? Well, we can't hear you, but wait. No, we can't hear you, but that's okay.
Really good.
Oh, okay, start over, sorry.
It was a great book, really good, enjoyable, fun to read, quick read, and full of wisdom.
Okay, great, thank you. So it is something I'd like you to think about. You can get it on the internet. I actually have a hard copy, which is a really funny thing because everything is digital for me, but I do have a hard copy. So I'm going to talk a little bit today, and I do talk, so Bruce will kind of go time out. When you downsize, how do you decide what stays, what goes, right? It's a big decision. Well, I like to say that you start with a room that has no emotional meaning. A laundry room, a powder bathroom, okay? These are rooms that you shouldn't have an emotional connection with. I mean, unless you're really crazy about your washing detergent. But you go in and you decide, what am I not using? If you don't like Tide, why do you have 4 bottles of Tide? If you don't use Downy fabric softener, why do you have that? Trust me, I come across laundry rooms with a lot of shower and laundry stuff that people don't even use. If you don't use chemicals on your counters or in your washer and dryer, set them aside. All of this stuff does need to be responsibly recycled, though, just to mention that. So, you know, you want to consolidate, you want to get rid of the things that you don't love, that you don't need. If you don't cook like you used to cook, why are you saving all the pots and pans? If you have weak arms and you cannot pick up that Le Creuset, who's got a Le Creuset? I don't. Yeah, Bruce, of course, does because he cooks. I had a Le Creuset. I dropped it and broke 4 tiles. That was without anything in it. But if you don't like the weight of something, if you don't cook that way, if you don't bake any longer, those are the things that you can get rid of. And please don't think that you're going to send it to your kids. It's less expensive for your kids to go to Home Goods or Marshalls or Sur La Table and buy the cooking stuff that they need. And bottom line, your kids don't want your old stuff, right? Repeat after me. Your kids don't want it. I will keep saying that from personal experience. My mother said, is there anything you want? I said, yeah, I want the diamond. Well, don't you want this? I said, no, I want the diamond. So, you know, and you have to ask your kids. So maybe you think your kids want your master bedroom set. Well, the only reason they would want it is to sell it if it's mid-century modern, okay? Because this is a disposable generation, your kids and your grandkids. They're going to go to IKEA, Pottery Barn. They're not looking for quality, okay? They're just looking for the look. And they're looking for what they can get on the cheap. So if you think that there's something that your kids really, really want, take a picture, send it to them. So I'm going to tell my Bruce's favorite story. Years and years ago, I was born, but my brother wasn't. I'll give you an idea. My brother's 64. I'm not. And my father went to a junkyard and he found a brass bed. And it's an old-fashioned brass bed with the rungs. And it was a double. My father was 6'2". My mother was 5'8". And they had the rungs. And my mother used to say, don't cross the middle rung unless you mean business. You know what I mean, right? Meanwhile, there are 3 children in addition to me. I was before the brass bed. So somehow I got saddled with this bed. So I know where people are coming from when they say, my mother gave it to me. Trust me, I get it. I had this bed in my house in Washington, D.C. I had this bed in Colorado. I had this bed when I went back to Washington. I had this bed in the Keys when I lived in the Keys, another story. And then I had the house here. I had 3 different places. I had that damn bed, okay? I hated that bed. It was uncomfortable and it was not my look. I'm really modern. So I go out and I buy a new bed at IKEA, believe it or not. And I call up my mom. I'm like, I got to get rid of this bed of yours. And she says, well, why don't you? I said, well, I don't know where to put it. She says, you should take the modern bed in your bedroom, put that in the guest room, get the new bed, and get rid of the brass bed. I'm like, really? You don't want it? She goes, I don't want that. Why do you think I gave it to you? So she says, I'll pay to have it shipped anywhere in the country for any of the kids. So I called up my brothers, my 2 brothers and my sister. They didn't want it. I sent out an email to all my nieces and nephews. They didn't want it. Called my mom. She's like, no, try again. So I sent out an email again to everybody saying, look, mom is going to pay to have this shipped. It's sentimental. If I don't hear back, because I was tired of waiting for a response, so I did a different thing. I said, if I don't hear back from you in 24 hours, I will assume that that's a no. 24 hours later, I called up Guadalupe and I sold it. Walked away with $75. That was my cut. Took myself out for a nice dinner. Sent another email to my brothers and my sister and everybody else. Hey, I sold the bed. I got $75. My sister calls me up. How dare you? I said, what do you mean? How dare I? She goes, I was conceived in that bed. So that just goes to show you that, you know, your kids don't want it. And I really worked hard to give everybody in my family a chance to have it. And nobody wanted it, okay? So I want you to just keep that little story in the back of your mind. I'm looking at my notes, okay? So when downsizing, the easiest way to downsize is if you know where you're moving, okay? So if you decide to move and you use a realtor because you're going to another house, or if you use Bruce because you're going into a senior living situation, you pick out an apartment you like. You know that you're going to have 2 bedrooms and a den, for example, and that you're going to have an open garage, and that you're not going to have a full dining room to seat 12 or 16. So you know this in advance, and you have the blueprints in front of you. So one of the things I do is I come in and I help you figure out what art is going to fit on what wall, what bed is going to fit in what bedroom, what furniture will fit. We all know that if you're moving into a 2-bedroom apartment and you have a 5-bedroom house, it's not going to work, right? It's just simply not going to work. It's like putting a square peg into a round hole. And guess what? Storage is not the solution. Bruce got off easy. I think you were paying $50 or $80 a month. I have some clients who are paying $369 a month for storage. And we're going through it and we're trying to get them downsized in their storage unit. So I don't want you to think that storage is the solution. So you have to remember that, and I keep mentioning your children, but you know, when the inevitable happens, and we all know what I'm talking about, right? The inevitable, we're in God's waiting room, all of us. But when it happens, your kids, they're not going to have time. They might have 3 hours bereavement 3 days bereavement if they work for a company. Otherwise, they have to take time off. And maybe they can't afford to take time off. Or maybe they're not working because of COVID. There's a lot going on in our lives right now. And one of the things about the whole coronavirus, and I'm sure that everybody else is feeling it, is that we realize that none of us, you know, are mortal. We're all going to die. I hate to put it in those terms, but we realize that it could happen any minute. Pray to God it doesn't. But you don't want to saddle your family with things that you don't have to saddle them with. I was really surprised that my mother had so much stuff in her apartment. Not only did I spend a 14-hour day, but I spent probably 3 weeks trying to unload stuff. And I know how to do it, and it still took me time. So that brings me to something. Everybody thinks your stuff is worth a lot of money. Am I right? You've got Limoges dishes. You've got Wedgwood. Am I right? You can raise your hands. Everybody's got it. How about fur coats? Who's got a fur coat? How many? Who's got more than one? Okay, Barbara, how many do you have?
They're up with my daughter, I believe it or not. Well, I have two. I gave one to one of my daughters who lives in Maine. But
Okay, so at least it's gone, so it's not yours.
I don't have it here.
Okay, great. So I was the great granddaughter of a furrier. Many of you have probably heard of Hollanderizing your furs. Have you ever heard of that? In the old days, it was a way to clean and store your furs, and they used sawdust. So that was my great grandfather, and he actually was a trapper. And he was a trapper. He trapped minks in Canada. And then he had a fur company. So when I was 35 years, I got the most beautiful fur coat you can imagine. So when I first moved to Naples, there was no place to store your fur coats. I brought my fur coat down here. I sent it to Miami, and I stored it for $100 a year in Miami. Went to New York 3 times. It was really cold. Had to have it shipped over here. Okay, let's not even talk about what that costs. Went to New York. I was menopausal, I admit. Couldn't wear the coat. I was so hot, I actually put it into a shopping bag, and I'm walking down Fifth Avenue in a t-shirt because I'm dying from menopause. Came back, and finally, after 3 years, I got rid of it. I put an ad in the Naples Daily News. I sold it for $425. On Christmas Eve, some guy bought it for his wife. It was a gorgeous coat, but I got rid of it. So remember, once again, your kids don't want it. Most of them won't wear it because they're scared to death to wear a fur coat because someone's going to throw paint on them. But you can do things. You can make teddy bears. You can make throws. You can donate them. You can try to consign. Consignment is probably not the way to go on fur coats, though, because everybody's consigning, okay? So a lot of people think, or they hear, oh, Marla, you sold such and such for this client. Yes, I sell a lot of stuff, but it's like a house. And if somebody really wants your house, they're going to pay for your house. If somebody really wants a Cuisinart, Bruce, they're going to pay for that Cuisinart. Somebody really wants a Miele vacuum cleaner, and you paid $800 for it, and I turn around and I sell it for $400 or $350. I'm getting what the market will support, but not everything is sellable. You have to understand that. Clothes, when you go to consign, most places do not take men's clothing. Furniture consignment stores, they don't want the Tommy Bahama look. They don't want anything that is skirted, like upholstered sofas that have a skirt, you know what I mean? Skirted. They don't want anything that have tacks, studs in them. They don't want anything that's stained. Most consignment stores only want furniture that is 5 years old or less.
So Marla, what do you do if they don't want it and you have all this furniture? What do you do with it?
Well, I put a lot of things for clients on Facebook Marketplace and also on Nextdoor. I actually had a little skirted upholstered sofa that was in my office. I called it the dog sofa, and I put that on Nextdoor, and it was for free. And I gave it away. A young college kid came over, and I had somebody else here. I had my neighbor here because she came over with her uncle and her father. You know, always have somebody there with you. And she took it away, and she took it to college. A lot of times you can ask your realtor to ask the people who are looking at your home, you know, and just say the house is unfurnished, but the owner would like to sell a few things if you are interested after the sale of the price. Okay. St. Matthew's House, St. Vincent de Paul. I am not a fan. I'm going to be honest. I only like local charities. I do not like Goodwill or Salvation Army. They're very high administrative costs. But a lot of these places won't take it. I will be honest with you. A lot of places do not want old furniture. And in that case, you have to hire a junk collector, which is more money. Okay, but these things cost. And that's not even counting tips, because you got to take care of these people because they're working their tails off, and minimum wage is not $15 an hour yet. But, you know, if you're in your house now and you have stuff and you don't like it, like I know Bruce is selling some things. And Bruce, have you been successful?
Somebody's coming today at 4 o'clock to pick up everything.
Great. But you have to understand, I'm sure Bruce will agree, you have to sell it for what you get. So if you have a handbag that you paid a lot of money for, you have to understand you're not going to get A, what you paid for it. You're probably not going to get B, half of what you paid for it, unless it is in absolute perfect condition. So you have options. You have selling, you have eBay, you have Poshmark, you have all these different internet sales platforms. Okay, but it's a lot of work. I do it as a side business, but I'll be honest with y'all, it's a lot of work. It is time consuming because then you have to be home for the people. I think it's a great thing to do because I think it's always nice to make a little extra money. You can pay the organizer, but it's nice to make that money. It's nice to have a goal. It's nice to say, okay, if I sell this handbag that I paid $2,000 for, and I know I paid too much, but if I sell it for $600, that's $600 more than if I don't sell it.
Marla?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So I know you talked about kind of start off with the small room, like the powder room or the laundry room. What other tips can you give everyone today? Are there a couple easy tips that you can give people today? Okay,
thank you. The first thing you're going to do is pick a room and don't walk into the master bedroom and say, today I'm going to organize the master bedroom. Okay. It's not going to take a day because you have to think how long it took you to accumulate all the stuff. So if something doesn't fit, it's not going to fit. Okay. I'm sorry, ladies and gents. We're never going to be size zeros again. We're never going to be wearing the same outfit, the cheerleading outfit. Anybody still have their cheerleading outfit? I was not a cheerleader. I'm Jewish. Jewish girls were not cheerleaders. And guys have a leather jacket. Okay, I know somebody who saved her son's cast from when he broke his arm. So you have to understand that you accumulated all this stuff over a period of time. It is going to take time to get rid of it. So if you walk into your master bedroom, for example, don't think today I'm going to get rid of everything in the closet. Do a shelf at a time. Do one section, do your pants. If it means trying on every single pair of pants, do it. If the pants don't fit, or if you're a size 10 and these pants are a size 2, please, 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 understand it's not going to fit. Okay? Make piles. Things that are stained, don't try to donate them. Stained items, panties, swimsuit bottoms, things like that. Just that's going to be throw out. Think clothing that's in good condition and clean can be donated. Things that are, recent, you can try to consign. But I want you to go through, when we get off the phone, here's a good thing. I want you to go and look at every single magazine and periodical. Okay, I want you to gather all the magazines, all the newspapers, and all the clippings of my column from the Naples Daily News. And by the way, I now write for Florida Weekly. It's the second Thursday of the month. It's the home and garden section. And I write for Florida Weekly now. But I know a lot of you still have my columns left from the Naples Daily News. They're available online. But I want you to gather every single periodical. And on the 30th of the month, are there 30 or 31 days? On the 31st of the month, I want you to get rid of every single magazine, newspaper, scrap of paper that is not marked February 2021. Is that a deal? Okay, that's a deal. And you're not going to believe how much stuff you have. The next project I want you to do is I want you to go in your closets. Gentlemen, if you're no longer wearing a size 34 pant, please, or if you're wearing your pants below your belly and you think that they fit, they don't. But if there's something in your closet you don't like, you don't love, if it doesn't fit you, you're allowed to get rid of it. If you're holding on to something that's sentimental, okay, you got a coffee cup when you were in Barcelona 30 years ago, and you remember that trip. You did 8 countries in 7 days, and you got a cup from every country. And you have a cup from Barcelona, and it is cracked, but you don't care because you turn it around and you drink from the other side of the cup. Anybody ringing a bell here? You're allowed to get rid of it. Linens that are stained. I had a woman, she said to me, she had lots of linens, and they were all stained from food. And so I said, well, you can't have a dinner party with these. And she goes, oh, I just turn them over, nobody knows. So these are funny stories, but a lot of us do it anyway, right?
So Marla, I know you posted something the other day about hangers.
Oh, yeah. I don't want you to go out and buy, but my number one secret for being organized, and I just want to mention that, when you're downsizing, I want you also to think in terms of moving, right? So I'm going to go to the hangers, but I'm also going to the kitchen. When a mover comes into your house, and that's one of the things I do, is I will bring movers and interview them and help my clients hire a mover. Mover comes in and he has a formula in his head. He counts the number of cabinet doors in your kitchen, okay? Then he counts the number of shelves in each cabinet. He multiplies it out. And he has a formula because he already knows how much things weigh. He already knows how long it's going to take his guys to pack, or gals, to pack up your kitchen, your laundry room, your bathroom. And he also knows the weight, okay? And he knows how many boxes he's going to have to use. He's going to charge you. Why would you move stuff that you know you don't want in your new home? Because you're paying him extra. And then on the other end, you have to understand that movers, unless you pay them extra, they do not unpack. Okay, they hire me. Movers will hire somebody like me to unpack. So one of the things I suggest, though, is when you're getting ready to move, splurge and buy yourself matching hangers. Now, the secret about matching hangers is that once you run out of hangers, do not run out and buy more. Okay, so a lot of people like the velvet hangers, and every time you go to Home Goods, you buy more, right? Because, oh, they're on sale and they're hot pink and I hate pink. Or, oh, they're black, but I hate black. But it's such a good deal. Or you go to Costco and you buy their box of 50. And then you see the box of 50 at Bed Bath & Beyond. And all of a sudden you have a lot of hangers. And every time you just keep buying more hangers and you keep buying more clothes. The whole idea is that once you call and clean out your closets, invest in matching hangers. And when you run out of those hangers, it's time to get rid of more stuff. But the beauty of having matching hangers is that literally the mover goes like this, whoop, they take the whole bunch, they put it in a wardrobe. When they get to your new home, they go like this, they put it onto the rack in your closet, and your closet's all organized. So if anybody has hangers from like Target or Marshall's or the free hangers they give you from the dry cleaner, recycle those, okay? Especially the ones from the dry cleaner. You know, you think those little pant ones are great, they're not. But hangers are a really good investment. Let me look at my note for a second. I want to tell another story about selling stuff, and then I'll open this up to questions. So everybody thinks I've got baseball cards and they're worth a lot of money. That's a man thing, okay? I got to tell you, ladies, your husbands, they think the baseball cards are worth a lot of money. They think their collection of pennies in the huge water thing it's worth a lot. So most collections are worth face value, okay? Especially stamps. If you don't keep stamps in perfect condition with acid-free paper and acid-free corners, they're not worth anything. So face value means if you have a 5-cent stamp, it's worth 5 cents. If you have $100 in pennies, it's worth $100, okay? Barbie dolls, trust me, not worth anything. Been trying to sell them for a client. So my mother had a beautiful set of Tiffany candlesticks from her great-grandmother. And they were silver and gold. They were all hand tooled. They were gorgeous. But she didn't like them and she didn't use tapers. So she decided to sell them. She called a friend. Who do I go to? And the friend said, oh, go see, Joe Schmo in Washington, D.C. My mom walks in with the candlesticks and said, such and such told me to come see you. And the guy says, I'll give you $1,500 for him. He didn't even look at him. I'll give you $1,500. So at that point, she knew they were worth something. So we're from Washington, D.C. So she went over to a place called Howard Avenue where all the little antique dealers were. And she had a referral to a man and who I still use, by the way. He's one of my best appraisers and he's up in Maryland. But she walked in with these candlesticks and she said, I have a funny feeling these are worth something. Well, it turns out he's got a photographic memory. He goes in the back, he pulls out the Sotheby's catalog from like 20 years before that. And he said, the last pair that sold for about $50,000 at auction. Let's take them to New York. Okay. My mother netted after Sotheby's took their cut, after Barry took his cut, after the train ride, after the hotel, after everything, she walked away with $26,000. So she calls up my Aunt Rosie. Now she had no idea these were worth, okay? There were only 6 pair ever made. She calls up my Aunt Rosie, who had a set. And she said, Aunt Rosie, guess what? I sold, great-grandma Nettie's candlesticks. I got $26,000. And Aunt Rosie says, I got 60. But the moral of the story is it's when you sell it. Like right now, stock market is high, thank God. And usually when the stock market's high, gold and silver are low. Right now, we are in a situation where everything's high. Gold is high, silver is high, but silver is usually scrapped, just so that you know, okay? They will scrap it, they will melt it down, and you'll get money, and it's based on a penny weight. It's not based on what something actually weighs. But when you hire a professional organizer, this is one of the things that he or she does or should know. But the moral of the story is what you have, it may be valuable today, but it might not be valuable tomorrow, or it may have more value today and less tomorrow. You can't hold on to it thinking that it's going to increase in value. So I always say, take the money and run.
Marla, I have one question for you, then I know there's some audience questions. So my question is, what about the refrigerator? What can people do to organize the refrigerator? We all have refrigerators.
Well, that's funny you should ask. About a month ago, my refrigerator died. So it was very easy to organize. Everything had to be thrown out. I started fresh. But, the sniff test works really well. You know what the sniff test is? You open a bottle, you sniff. If it doesn't smell good, please throw it out, okay? A lot of things that are stamped, it's a sell by date, not a smell by date. It's a sell by. Get it? Funny, right? Okay. Karen, I like you because you're laughing at my jokes. And so does Bruce, but nobody else is laughing. If you don't like mustard, why do you have a lot of mustard? If you use Worcestershire sauce for Bloody Marys, but the last time you had a Bloody Mary was 5 years ago, you can get rid of it. It's safe, okay? Things, even though they're refrigerated, they get funky. So you can see, like inside the bottle, you can see if it's getting funky. You have to give a good wash to your, funny story. My sister asked me to clean her refrigerator about 2 months ago. And I took everything out, because that's the way you're supposed to clean it, right? Take everything out. You go through everything, you decide what you don't like. If the cheese is old, get rid of it. And I washed everything, soapy water, dried everything, put everything back. I'm in the shower and she's calling me from the other room. What did you do? What did you do? I'm like, what? I come out, I'm like, dripping wet. I said, what's wrong? She goes, the refrigerator, it's broken. It's 84 degrees. I said, well, I cleaned it and I didn't touch anything. Well, I must have touched something. So she looked at me, she goes, I've had that refrigerator 10 years. I've never cleaned it like that. I expect you just to take a little Clorox wipe. So the moral of the story is don't hire an organizer to clean that refrigerator because she goes a little crazy. But if there's something in there that you don't eat, if you don't like mustard, if you don't like ketchup, if there are things you don't like, if you have bottles of wine that are open that have been there for weeks, you can get rid of it. If you have barbecue sauces that you don't like. A lot of people keep spices in their freezer, which is fine, especially if you're traveling up north. But once again, take the sniff test. If a spice doesn't smell, that means it's got no flavor. Does that answer?
Yeah, that's good. So
I wanted to just say one thing to everybody. Bruce is not just one of the best senior housing advisors. He is the only person I would suggest calling. The service is undeniably something that, as I said, had my mother been here, I would have called him. I have given him a lot of referrals. I try to explain to people that, we all are expert in what we do. I'm an expert organizer. It doesn't mean I know all the answers. I can't tell you how many times I call Bruce and I ask him something, or he calls me and he asks me something. But, for senior housing, and that doesn't have to have a bad connotation. It doesn't mean that you're checking out, okay? You could be going someplace that's got golf, tennis, bocce, everything. You've got crafts, you've got, meals if you want them, but he's the person to call. And then as far as organizing, of course, I'd like you to call me, but I just want to say that you get what you pay for. So if you decide to hire a professional organizer, the word to remember is professional. There are a lot of people out there that are not licensed. They are not insured. Think about it. Do you want an electrician in your house who's not licensed and insured? Okay. So you want somebody in your house that is licensed, insured, a member of the National Association of Professional Organizers, which means that we have continuing ed classes that are required every year. Feel free to ask people for references, okay? But the other thing is you have to feel comfortable with the person you hire, because that person's going to be with you for a while. Maybe they come in for one day and they work a long day with you and they give you assignments, or maybe they come in once a week. I'm actually working with a couple, thank you, Bruce, that I've been with once a week for 10 weeks. And they're ready. And the house is on the market. I help them get it ready, but you have to think in terms of, licensed and insured, somebody who takes it seriously, not a housekeeper who says they can organize for you, somebody who knows how to prepare you for a move, and somebody you trust, somebody you feel comfortable with. That is, I cannot, think about it. When you have somebody in your house working on your toilets or your faucets, you want somebody that you feel safe having in your home, okay? It's not just about the valuables that you may have. It's about having somebody in your home that you feel an affinity for, that you feel comfortable with. I cannot stress that enough. But I'm going to let Bruce moderate and give me some questions.
Okay, so Marla, we had a question about how do you find an appraiser? And I know somebody provided a name of an appraiser, but what would you recommend as far as finding an appraiser? You
call me. And you, that's one of the things I do is when you hire me, for example, right now I have, I had a job last winter and right before COVID, and the house was filled with mid-century modern. And I called 3 different appraisers, and all 3 knew the value of the furniture, but one had the best terms. And one was ready, literally came 2 days later. We got a call, do you want us to pick it up, sign the contract? So I work with a lot of appraisers, and that's one of the things that I help my clients with when they hire me.
So Marla, how do you work? Do you just come in and just, estimate, or what is like what happens when people engage you?
Well, a lot of times I will get the feeling on the phone. I usually have a half-hour conversation. Whoops, I've just fell out of my own chair. And I can tell if somebody's ready or not. So for example, this couple that Bruce introduced me to, I tried setting up an appointment and they kept having excuses. Now they're retired. Oh, I can't see you. I've got this, I've got that, I've got this, I've got doctors. And I actually said to the people, you know what, you're not ready. And all of a sudden they were ready. And what happened is that they actually went and they looked at a couple of homes and they realized we have to hire somebody. Physically, we cannot do this, and emotionally, we can't do it. So at that point, I went and I did a consultation because I wasn't sure that it was a good fit. And had it not been a good fit, I would have referred them to somebody, okay? But I work with a lot of older people, and that is my specialty, is working with people who are downsizing. I went and I met with them, and I didn't think they were ready. And a week later, I got a call, and they said, we're gonna do it. And Bruce had warned them. Bruce said, you're either gonna love her or you're gonna hate her, or a combination of both. After about 2 weeks, the wife turns to me and she said, I just want you to know, I did not like you when I met you. I said, oh, I know that. I didn't like you either. I said, but I knew that you needed my services. I'm very objective. I said, and I know you didn't like me because I was telling you stuff that you didn't want to hear. And she said, well, that's only one of the reasons I didn't like you. She said, but now I like you because I realize how funny you are and how you do make this a little bit easier. You make this a fun job. You make us think, but in the end, you are not judgmental. You know what goes where, how to dispose of stuff, how to get people to help you if you can't lift something. She says, and I like you because you're funny. But I will go and I will do a consultation. And I'll give somebody an idea, like this is, you need to do this, this, and this. I will do a consultation. I do charge for it. And I will be honest, I charge $250 for an hour consultation. I prefer just putting my feet in and going to work, okay? I charge $175 an hour. Yes, there are people out there who will do it for less. What do I say? You get what you pay for, right? But you have to understand that if you're ready, you're ready. By the time you call me, you've been thinking about it for a while. You're ready. Yes, I can come out, I can give you a consultation, I can take your money, but I would rather come out and work and we work for 6 hours. If physically you can't do that, I'm able to break it into 2 3-hour sessions. But we just get right down to work. All you have to do is make a decision. I do all the physical work, okay? There's somebody on this call today that I actually I met with her, and she wasn't ready. But what I did was I gave this person and her husband a suggestion of what I would do to create space so that when they were ready, we would have a place to put stuff. A big part of getting organized, besides decluttering, is also beginning to box things to move, okay? But it's also ergonomics. I don't like to bend. Bruce, he's 6'7". He can reach the very top shelf. My mother used to have this step ladder. Every time I turned around, she's on the step ladder. I had to take it away. She's very smart. She bought another one. But now that she's in this assisted living place, no, they check. They make sure she hasn't gone to Publix and bought a step ladder. But you shouldn't have anything way up high. You shouldn't have anything way down low. So when I worked with this particular couple, I explained that, and they're in the process of having shelves built that they're not going to have to lift or bend. And at the same time, hopefully they'll get rid of the huge wok that is made to feed a family of 30.
So Marla, there's another question. What do you do about books? You know, there's a lot of people have really nice books and they don't know what to do with them, and or they might have a Bible or things like that. So they're attached to them, but they don't know what to do with them.
So I have my little Bible from when I was confirmed. And, I'm really not religious, and I really don't want this. It's got my name on it, and I really don't. I'm being honest, and it's not me. And I was going to dispose of it, and there was a way to dispose of flags and of Bibles, just to let you know. And my mother told me I couldn't do it, so that was a little bit of guilt. But if you have a Bible, Bibles, St. Matthew's House, definitely, okay? St. Matthew's House is a faith-based charity, and they would love Bibles, okay? If you decide that, excuse me, you really don't want it and you want to dispose of it and not give it to charity, there is a way you can go, excuse me, on the internet, and there's a way that you wrap it and that you bury it. Really, there is a way that you can dispose of religious items in a thoughtful way, okay? Books, everybody holds on to their books. Books get moldy, okay? I can walk into an apartment, I can smell mold. I'm allergic to mold. I get shots every week because I'm allergic to mold. I can smell it. Books, charity. Avow actually has a place like, I think it's called Treasures, and it's on 41 down by SS Nemo, Swan River, and they have a whole book section. The library does not want your books. Sorry, okay? They don't want your books. Things like tools, if you have tools, people will buy tools, but if you can't, you can always do like Lorenzo Walker, the tech school, okay? And high schools, call the different high schools because they have shop. Flags, there is a place to dispose of your flags at the Naples Daily News, or you just call up the local Veterans Administration and they'll tell you how. Next question.
Here's a question for you. It says, my mom gave me her dog collection from QVC HSN. All dogs are in dolls are in boxes.
Dogs like arf arf? Dogs or dolls?
Dolls. Some have the bill of sale, so they're in like really good condition, all boxed up, and never, what do you do with these dolls?
So I was at a house once, I was helping the person downsize, and she had a doll collection. It freaked me out. They were like the live dolls with the eyes. And this was a huge house in Port Royal. And every room, I mean, there were thousands of dolls. And I literally would go through every room and close the eyes. It freaked me out. And she also had clowns. Anybody here afraid of clowns?
No.
Well, if you're trying to sell your house and you have a clown, trust me, put the clowns away. I had a client in Pelican Marsh, she had clowns. I'm like, get rid of the clowns. And she wouldn't. And the house was on the market for a year. The realtor came in and said, get rid of the clowns. She finally listened to the two of us. She got rid of the clowns and the house sold in 3 days. People freak out with clowns. As far as dolls, donate, donate, donate. If you have teddy bears, now I don't know right now because of COVID, I'll be honest, but teddy bears that are in great condition, the Shelter for Abused Women and Children, every time a child comes in who is has an abused situation, either their parent or themselves, the shelter gives them a teddy bear. Okay. Now, right now with COVID, I don't know if that is still something that's done, but you can call the shelter. Okay. Our lives have changed a little bit because of COVID.
You know, and I use,
dolls, you just gotta donate them, and you can't hold on to them because they were your mother's, because when you go, sorry, but your kids are gonna be stuck with them. And then they're gonna feel guilty.
and I use this, you know, the Facebook marketplace. So I sell some things, you know, that I don't want anymore on that. But, you know, you got people coming to your home that you don't know. And, you know, it's probably not the best situation. You know, you can be very vulnerable because you get strangers, and then you're getting all these people who may want to negotiate with you over nothing. And
So I'll tell you a funny story. I was working with a client who would come to one of the presentations that Bruce and I did. And she met me and she said, I'll call you in a couple of years when I'm ready. And she did. She called me in a couple of years. She's moving to the East Coast and she was so ready. She said, if we do nothing else, I'd like to clear out the garage. My husband died. He had Alzheimer's and he had this thing for buying tools. Now, that was an understatement. Had a lot of weed whackers and a lot of lawn mowers, including a lawn, one of the runs that you ride on, and they only have a piece of land this big. So at the same time, she had a mattress in her guest room, and I knew somebody who had just moved and needed a mattress. Literally had been slept on 4 times. So I called my friend and she called her mover. Mover comes over. He's taken the mattress and the box springs and he's in the garage. And he says, what are you asking for that weed whacker? And I said, $1,500. He said, $1,500? Are you crazy? I said, $1,500. The weed whacker is free. You got to take everything else in the garage. Well, we ended up settling because I had a number in my head that I went through, you know, we ended up taking 900. So started at 15, he came back at 5, negotiated. I knew this guy because he was a mover I had used before on a project. And he says, well, I have to think about it. I'll get back to you. I said, my bottom line is 900. You have to come back to me with cash by 5 o'clock. Or the bet's off, we go back to 1,500. So guess what? He took everything, including the junk. So we were just lucky. Okay, but you know, I know who to call sometimes. We were lucky. I knew the guy he had like, oh my God, I'm so excited. There's a weed whacker. Okay, for $900, he got a weed whacker. Got 5 weed whackers, 4 lawn mowers, I think 8 vacuum cleaners. He took all the cans of paint. He recycled everything for us. But I agree with Bruce. Facebook Marketplace, the one thing I like about it is that everybody is a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, okay? So you can always look up that person's name and invariably they will have a mutual friend. You do the negotiating in advance. If you have something that's expensive, like let's say you're gonna sell a computer. I actually sold a computer for somebody, but I met the people in front of my bank because it was safe. I met somebody else in front of Whole Foods, and it's cash. You know, so negotiate ahead of time. Do your due diligence, okay? And I don't meet anybody in my house. And if we're selling something for a client, I make sure that I'm there with them, or that somebody is there with them. So you still have to be very safe, you know. I remember when Naples was a little town and they had a crime column this big in the Naples Daily News. Now you got pages. So be careful. Paperwork, I'd like to mention. Paperwork is really, really, really a big thing with downsizing, and it takes somebody with knowledge. I am very knowledgeable about knowing what you need to get rid of, what you should hold on to. Ladies, a lot of times your husbands will save every piece of paper. When I go through homes, I will find insurance policies for houses you no longer own. I will find all the backup receipts for car repairs from your first car 40 years ago. So there's a lot of paperwork that you don't need to take with you.
So Marla, in addition to helping people get organized and downsize, you also help people get financially organized as well, correct?
Yes. Now, I'm not a bookkeeper, but I do have I know what to do. I can set you up on auto pay. I help you with your passwords. I help you consolidate your credit cards, go through your paperwork, set up systems. I know who to call. At the end of the year, I can help you consolidate all your papers for your accountant. You know how everybody gets that little tax organizer right about now? I have filled out more tax organizers than I can tell you. I am insured for errors and omissions. So I tell you, I am not an accountant. I'm not a bookkeeper, but I know in most cases what you need to save. I can save you money by having this prepared in advance. Also, you know, a lot of times looking at a bill, I'll turn to somebody and say, how many TVs do you have? Because you're paying for 8 DVRs or whatever those, you know, for Comcast. You know, you're paying for what you don't even use anymore or don't need. So I look at bills very carefully for you. A lot of times people are paying for ESPN and you don't even like sports. So I do look at these bills for you and I help. Yes.
Any other questions with the group?
I see a chat, 9 people. Wait a second, what up? Oh, armoires. Let me take a quick peek, okay? I won't mention names. It says privately. My daughter does not wear fur coat. My daughter in Maine does not wear fur coat. I'll talk to you about that later, Barbara. Armoires. Okay, so everybody knows what an armoire is. Those big, ugly things, right? Bruce, I know you're trying to sell one. So there's
Pick up for free.
yeah, pick it up for free. Try to sell it for free. I actually had an armoire that I put on Facebook and I put it up for free to have them take it out. Now there is a guy up in Cape Coral. I don't even know how to find him, but he apparently is buying armoires and making them into little bars, like tiki bars. I think you could probably go on the internet and just put in there armoire tiki bars. But you just want to get rid of them because they're entertainment centers. Let's see. Oh, Carolyn, thank you. Eldridge Appraisals. I've heard of them also. I personally not use them though. What do you do with books? Got that. Doll collection. I got all that. Anybody else have questions? I mean, I'm here. Take advantage of me. I'm not going anywhere till 3 o'clock today. I got all day.
So, well, I think this is good. I'm going to send all your information to everybody who's a part of this call. So if you have specific questions for Marla, please reach out to her. Please reach out to me if you have any questions about senior housing in the area. I also have a national network of advisors across the country. So if you are thinking about senior housing somewhere else, or if you know somebody who's thinking about senior housing anywhere in the United States, I have a network of people who do what I do. Probably not as good, but they do what I do. So I appreciate everybody for being part of this call. Please reach out to Marla. She's going to send you the link to that book, and I'll send you this recorded version. And I really appreciate everybody. Stay well. Everybody get those vaccines if you're able to. So
everybody wear a mask. 100 days. That's all you got to do. You know, the new president is just saying wear it for 100 days. It's not just about your health. It's about everybody else's health. It's about let's stand united. We have to get, our country has to get better and the world has to get better. Has nothing to do with politics, okay? This has to do with, we all want to get better. And we want things to go back to some semblance of what they were before. So wear a mask.
You're right.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Marla. Enjoyed it. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.